cut off the phone. We got live, we got live, we got live, 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 live. We got live, 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 live. Alrighty. Greetings, Earthlings. Greetings, viewers. It is Friday, May 8th. Happy Friday. 1:56 p.m. And we are live for Media Club. It's not 2 o'clock yet. We still have a few more minutes, but I don't think there's a lot of people in here. But yeah, a few more minutes. We'll get into it. We had some technical difficulties last week, but fingers crossed, arms crossed, everything crossed that we shouldn't have any technical difficulties this time around. But I'm excited. I have my stuff. But yeah, it's honestly a really cool episode, so I hope that we'll be able to discuss it. And this is Brainchild, the dreams episode specifically. But yes. One person. Hello, one person. I'll say hi. It's Anna. Anna's the one person. Oh, two people. Oh, whoa now. Whoa now. Hello, Anna. Okay. So, a couple more minutes. We're just vibing. Just vibing. But yes, I am excited to get into this. We'll see how many people are actually able to join. If you're joining, please don't be afraid to say hello. I promise I'm nice. But yes, just like a couple more minutes and we're gonna get this live started. Happy Friday. Yes, happy Friday indeed. Wow. Anna, your comment was made at 1:59 p.m., but still, as of right now, it's still 1:58 p.m. So Anna's living in the future. She's 1 minute ahead of everybody. I'm still not 1:59. Wow. We love a time traveler. Snaps to that. But yeah. Dreams, dreams, why do we have them? How do they work? What even are they? Dreams, dreams, dreams. We're gonna talk about it all today. That's my song. It's called Dreams by Fleetwood Mac. Just kidding, it's already a song. Oh, okay. Dabbing on them. That's a little retro, but yeah, I respect the sentiment for sure. Alrighty. It's almost 2 o'clock, people. We're just vibing. Just me and Anna. It's just me and Anna. Well, how's everything going, Anna? It's 2 o'clock. I don't know what to do. Should we wait? Should we get started? Wait a little bit? It's okay. This will turn into a how many funny faces does Lyric make on YouTube live video? But yes, 2 o'clock. Not sure if I should get started or not. So, yes, it's 2 o'clock. What do we say? Shall I get into it? Shall I wait for some more people to pour in? What's going on? What's the skinny? What's going on? Okay, it's going well. Why don't you structure this video as if you didn't have an audience and get started? I like it. Okay, so it's after 2 o'clock. Let's get into it. If anyone is watching and they don't know who I am, my name is Lyric, and I'm a program facilitator at the Mariposa Center for Girls in the Valley. And part of what I'm doing is bringing you some awesome media to discuss via live due to these circumstances. So I've done this a few times before, but this week, my plan was to talk a little bit about the Dreams episode of Brainchild. And if you don't know what Brainchild is, it's a really cool documentary series on Netflix that is, youth friendly. It's not too like intimidating or dramatic. It's just like a fun, cute, quirky series of mini documentaries about different topics. And it is on Netflix for anybody who is interested. So, going back to Brainchild, the episode that I want to discuss in particular is about dreams, right? So, like, we have all had dreams. Sometimes we don't remember them, but like it is a proven scientific fact that everybody dreams, and we have a lot of questions as to what exactly is a dream? What exactly is its purpose? Why do we as humans dream? Is it just us that dream? Do animals dream? Dogs, reptiles? Like so many questions about it. And we have a lot of psychologists, which are psychologists are people that study how like the mind works. We have a lot of psychologists, doing a lot of research and answering those questions. So let's get into it. Oh, hi, Dallas. Happy Friday, indeed. Yes. Okay. So basically, something that talks about in the little documentary, it's kind of stars one person in particular, and she really does a good job of explaining what dreams are. So what are they? So basically, there's a lot of different reasons that people think that we dream. One of them is that at night when we're resting, because sleep is like to recharge our brain, right? So even though the rest of our body is asleep and not moving, our brains are still very, very active while we're sleeping. So our brain pretty much never takes a rest. Our brain is always active, even when we're sleeping. And some psychologists have a theory, or a theory is like, I guess, an idea as to why something is the way that it is. So psychologists have a theory that when we dream at night, our brain is trying to figure out which of the memories are more important and need to be saved, and which ones can kind of get tossed and make room for more memories. So with that being said, that's why dreams kind of have this weird like familiarness to them, even though we don't like vividly remember experiencing it, because it's how our brain processes all of these random chunks of information, like people's faces and sounds and dates and stuff like that. So, yes. So, of course, how can we talk about dreams without talking about sleep and why sleep is so important? So, in the documentary, it talks about the 5 stages of sleep. And yes, there are 5 stages, and it's called the sleep cycle. And it repeats over and over again about every 90 minutes or so. So let's talk about the stages. So the first stage is, they just call it stage 1 of sleep. It's very light sleep. It's like when you're just like nodding off, like starting to fall asleep, like not much is happening yet. You're still kind of a little bit awake. And then stage 2, you're gonna, your heartbeat and your breathing are gonna slow down. Your body's like, okay, it's time to sleep. We getting ready, and you're no longer aware of being awake. And then the third stage in the sleep cycle is where we start to see like if so there's this machine where you put like little things to your head, and it measures your brain activity while you're sleeping. So if everybody were to do that during the stage 3 of the sleep cycle, you would start to see really like slow brain waves on that. And that's when our body starts to release those healing chemicals to help us recharge. So we're in it. We're officially like we're asleep, right? So stage 4 is like the deepest stage of sleep. It is super hard to wake someone up when they're in this stage, and dreams do happen in this stage, but we rarely remember them. And so, last but not least, absolutely not least, is stage 5, and it's called Rem sleep. And what Rem stands for, I'm going to put it in the chat box. Rem stands for rapid eye movement. And this is when, sorry, I'm trying to talk. Rapid eye movement. Okay, awesome. So this is where you start to see the super vivid dreams. And like I said, the whole cycle takes about 90 minutes to repeat. And you might say, well, Lyric, when I go to bed for 8 hours or 5 hours or, so how does this whole thing only happen in about like 90 minutes? It's kind of weird to think about, but that's why the cycle repeats. So it's super duper important for so many reasons that we all get a good night's sleep. And there's a certain amount of hours. I believe they say ideally like 8 hours of sleep is good. And depending on how much younger you are, because you're still growing, the younger you are, the better it is to get more sleep. And I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because my sleep schedule is all out of whack, but it's still super important, right? So scientists have actually done a study or like an experiment where they'll have people just go to sleep in the lab and they go through the stages of the sleep cycle. And then right before they hit like that deep REM sleep with the dreaming, they wake them up, right? And what the studies showed was then when people don't like reach that stage, when they're not able to get a deep enough level of sleep and they don't hit stage 4 and 5, it makes them way more irritable, groggy, just not good, right? Because those stages in the sleep cycle are important because those are the things that recharge us. And that's the time for the brain to figure out what's important and what's not. So that's super important. Also, another thing that I wanted to talk about more in relation to how our dreams happen. So some of you probably definitely already know this, but basically, when we're going through those old memories, it's a lot of communication inside of our own brain. And that communication is between like hundreds and thousands of little teeny, teeny, tiny brain cells called neurons. And the neurons are kind of all connected throughout your brain, and they send little electronic messages to each other, kind of like a text or an email, right? Except instead of like, hi, Martha, how are you? It's more like random memories flying across your brain. So I made a little drawing, and I am no artist. I am no like psychologist, but this is probably the best I could do. I find that sometimes when I look at things, it helps me learn about them a little bit better. So yeah, I don't know if you can see that, right? But I have two little neurons here. This is probably not the most accurate portrayal, but this is kind of similar to what the little tiny brain cells in our head are doing when they're sending these messages to each other. So you got like the center of it, which is called the nucleus, and then you have these little almost like branches, right? And those are called dendrites, and they kind of extend. And so as you see, when they connect to each other, that is when the message is sent, that little brain email, that brain text, right? So I love the diagram. Thank you. And I thought I would include that a little bit because I'm like, oh yeah, that like kind of makes sense, And like I said, I'm no artist. But going back to the dreams discussion, I am interested in hearing from anyone, if anyone is watching, what are some of the reoccurring dreams that they have? And by reoccurring, I mean the things that keep happening. So the dreams that you keep having, I'm sorry. So I'm going to put one of the dreams that I keep having in the comment box. So if anybody wants to chip in, what a recurring dream you've been having. No. I'll see what other people say. So I have a recurring dream, a repeating dream where it feels like I'm falling, right? And so I feel like I'm falling in my dream, and then I'll just suddenly like wake up and I'll just suddenly start moving. Anna says, I do not usually remember my dreams. Hmm. Maybe that has something to do with our sleep cycle, because in stage 4 of our sleep cycle, it says that we do dream in that stage, but we don't really remember it that often. So that could be why. So I think that might have something to do with it. Just why, like I said, stage 5 is one of the most important stages. And if you don't reach that, then you might not be able to remember a lot of the dreams that you have. But something that the documentary highlights is that on average, throughout the course of our lives, we spend 6 years of like your average life is spent dreaming. And I just thought that was like absolutely like mind blowing. Like, can you imagine 6 years worth of dreaming? It's about like 2 hours a night, I think, when you do the math. And this is good analysis. Like I said, I'm no psychologist. I just like to, discuss and talk about these things. But in the documentary, what our lead kind of does, like the narrator, so to speak, because documentaries are nonfiction, so they don't have characters, but we do have a little bit of a narrator. And she does kind of more like a poll or a survey than anything, where she asks just random people off the street, what are some of the things that you tend to dream about? And they said, similar to what I said, falling in a dream, being like chased in a dream, monsters, like all of those things. And it's like interesting to think that we as humans are so completely different, but we still have very similar dreams about very similar things. So, if going back to dreams are how our brain sorts out memories and we're all having very similar dreams, that means that we all, kind of share very similar experiences, hence the phenomenon behind that, which I think is really cool. So, going into that, in particular, my dream, it talks about it in the documentary of when you kind of dream that you're falling, then all of a sudden you wake up. Scientists actually believe that that is an evolutionary sort of thing. So over time, as we evolved from monkeys, so basically that it's an adaptation, because as we evolved from monkeys, when we would dream in trees and start to drift off and fall asleep, and then all of a sudden our body would jerk, which would kind of wake us up and remind ourselves to adjust before we fall out of the tree. So that dream about like falling and then all of a sudden like jerking, it's called a hypnic jerk, it's a real thing, actually has a little bit of an evolutionary standpoint, which I thought was really cool. And they always say like if you like hit the ground, then that means you've like died. And luckily, the documentary says that that's not true. So yes. What are some things that we have all had recurring dreams about? I'm excited to, see if anybody has anything to say. We have a couple people in here now, so hopefully I can get some answers out of y'all. Yes. So I have. So it says that they dreamed about monsters, tacos, school, falling, failing, being chased, having to go to the bathroom, a walrus, kayaking, dogs, and cactuses. literally so many different random things that come up in our dreams. And there's actually a way to kind of analyze, like do a dream analysis and figure out what like different meanings are. So, for example, if you have a recurring dream or maybe even more of a nightmare where you're being chased, some people say that that means that in your actual life, that not in your dreams, that you are kind of running away from something and you have to confront something in your life. Oh, Jess says, when I was younger, I had I'm so sorry. When I was younger, I had a recurring dream about the Grinch. He was a bad guy in this dream. Oh no. Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare, Jess. I never really liked the Grinch either, you know? I remember I used to have nightmares about dogs because when I was younger, I got like chased around by a dog. And then I started having these recurring dreams that I would get like chased by a dog. But since then, I've really like overcome my fear of dogs. So, yes. Okay, yes. And then dreaming of your parents, for example. So if you have a recurring dream about your parent, that can be symbolic of protection, whether you like need protection or you're seeking it or whatever. If we dream of animals, that can represent our like wild instincts, you know? So it's pretty cool that once you kind of figure out like what dreaming is all about and why we do it, how it does have real life um, meaning and significance. So, something that I'm going to start doing, and I've seen people do this before, and I recommend that if you're interested in learning more about your dreams, that you do, is keep what's called a dream journal. So, a dream journal is basically you can put it under your pillow or next to your nightstand or whatever, just a little journal. And so that way, for example, like one of our viewers, Anna, said that she hardly ever remembers her dreams. So as soon as you wake up, if you remember a dream, you take out your dream journal from wherever it is and you write about it. And the cool thing is that you can, look back on it and see, oh, I was dreaming about this. Like maybe this relates to something I'm going through in my actual life, not just in my dreams and stuff like that. But yes, I still can't get over. I'm so sorry. It's probably scary, but I still can't get over that Grinch nightmare. Talks about nightmares too in the documentary. And the best way to really avoid them is to, like I said, make sure that we're getting a good night's sleep, people. So, some of the things that it says in the documentary that might be helpful is first and foremost, and like I said, I'm a bit of a hypocrite because I have a bad habit of doing this, is to try not to use your phone before bed. I know that all of us, when it comes to like phones, iPads, we scroll a little bit right before we go to sleep, but it keeps the brain stimulated, a little too stimulated, which is not something that we want when we're trying to doze off and go to sleep. And it's also bad for the eyes. So we gotta try to reduce your screen time before bed, doing something that relaxes you, like reading a book, excuse me, drinking a cup of tea or something like that. So if anybody wants to share something that they do to help them relax before they go to bed, something that I do. This is kind of bad, but I cannot fall asleep without the TV on. Something about the background noise is just very comforting. And I mean, if it works, I guess I remember my dreams very often. So, yeah, like drinking tea, reading, and not eating before bed. Also, something that I've been kind of bad at. And the reason why they say not to eat before bed for a good night's sleep and less like nightmares or like unpleasant dreams and stuff is sorry, when you're eating right before you go to bed, your stomach is still working to break down that food that you just ate. So going back to what I was talking about in the sleep cycle, with the body kind of like slowing down the breathing and the heart rate and kind of letting the body relax, if you're still digesting foods that you just ate like 30 minutes to an hour before, you're not going to be able to settle into those sleep stages. So that's pretty important also. This says, I like to warm up my heating pad before bed to help me sleep. Awesome. Heating pad, essential oils like aromatherapy, diffuser to create a relaxing environment for you to go to bed. Anna says, I put on a relaxing YouTube video and turn the screen off and just listen until I fall asleep. I need to try something like that because I really, ever since I was a kid, I could never, excuse me, I could never fall asleep without the TV on. And still to this day, I know, listen, our electric bill is like up to here. And it's not even just me, it's my whole family. We can't go to bed without the TV on. But maybe now would be the time to try to switch up some of my habits. Adela says, I have an Alexa and I love to put waves crashing on. Yeah, awesome. So it sounds like y'all are all tapping into, you know, videos and music and stuff to calm you down. Yes. Do you are any one of you going to try maybe keeping a dream journal? I think so. I think that I will try to keep a dream journal and do my best to record or write down my dreams for the week. That is the pledge that I'm going to make to myself. And I challenge you all to try to do that also. And then next week, even though we'll be discussing the third episode of Alexa and Katie, because we haven't talked about Alexa and Katie in a while, I will still share some things from my dream journal if I get anything, which I'm pretty sure I will, because I usually remember most of my dreams, the memorable ones. Because, like I said, 6 hours of dreaming over the course of your life, which is like 2 hours a night, 2 hours worth of dreams, I don't think I can remember. The longest dreams I can remember are probably like 30 seconds. Anna says, that sounds like a good idea. I can finally remember what I dreamed. There you go. Dream journals, people. Super duper excited about that. Okay. And there's one more thing that I wanted to talk about that was in the documentary. So, or the docu-series, I should say. For those of you who have not been able to check it out, I highly recommend that you do, so that way some of this stuff will actually like make sense. But one of the things that they did in the docu-series is that they did an experiment involving bullying and dreams, right? So in the experiment, we had one group, which was like a focus group primarily composed of kids who have struggled with or dealt with bullying in their life. And then they had another group that hasn't. So they haven't really had to worry about bullies and stuff like that. So what they did with both of the groups was have them sleep in the lab and talk about like their dreams and stuff. And with the group of kids that have been bullied, they have dreams, recurring dreams of them being bullied. So then what they do is they say to those kids, if you can control it, try to think about standing up to the bully in your dreams, right? So then we have the group of kids that were bullied who are now focusing on standing up to the bully in their dreams, and that's what they talk about while they're dreaming. While the kids in what we call the control group, which is no like particular, they're just there to compare to the other ones. In the control group, they're just dreaming about regular things like we all do, falling, being chased, dogs, monsters, all that stuff. And so then they hire two private actors, which are both their brother and brother, so they're not actually like hurting anyone. And what they do is that they like stage a scene where the older brother is bullying the little brother. And excuse me, my throat is so dry today. But I'm sorry. Thank you. And so then what they do is they stage a little scene where the older boy is bullying the younger boy. And they have individuals from both the control group and individuals who have focused on standing up to bullies in their dreams come across it on their way out. So in the documentary and in the study, what happens is that the kids who kind of focused on standing up to the bully in their dreams were actually able to apply those ideas in real life and stand up to the bully in real life that they had staged and say, hey, that's not cool. Or they told the people that were conducting the study, trusted adults, or they told their parents about it. Whereas the kids that didn't struggle with bullying and just had dreams about regular things kind of just dismissed it and kind of just walked on by. So that just goes to show how powerful dreams can be and how they do have a real effect in real life. So I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't think that dreams were significant. I always, thought that dreams were just a bunch of nonsense, right? But part of having like a lucid dream where you can kind of control things, that stuff can definitely relate to real life, which is what we see in the study in the documentary, which I thought was pretty cool. So the next time that you may have a nightmare or something, if you record it in a dream journal or you remember it, try to ask yourself some questions about how to eliminate like that fear in real life, right? But some things, like for example, the falling dream, it's evolutionary. There's no real like meaning, like deep, significant, symbolic meaning to that. But the bully experiment that we saw in the documentary, I thought it was really cool. So, yes. So, the documentary is pretty short. So that's pretty much all of the content that I wanted to discuss. But just in case you joined a little late or you missed out on some things, I'm going to give like a mini recap before ending this live. So, basically, what dreams are is how our brain kind of processes memories and tries to figure out what we need or don't need to keep in our brain while we're sleeping at night, which is, resting and recharging. So even though our body is sleeping, like I said, our brain is still super duper active and doing a lot of work. And earlier in the live, I showed this little diagram of the little tiny brain cells in our brain called neurons and the parts of them and how they communicate with each other. So when the little like branch-like dendrites things connect, they then send electronic impulses to each other that show up in the form of those crazy memories in our dreams, like different sounds and places and faces and things like that. And then I talked a little bit about the sleep cycle. So very, very quickly going over the sleep cycle of the 5 different stages. And the 5 different stages recycle and repeat every 90 minutes throughout the duration of you going to bed. So, like I said, stage 1, very light. You're just dozing off. You're still kind of aware that you're awake. You're just dozing off. Then stage 2, that's when our heartbeat and our breathing starts to slow down and we're no longer aware of being awake. Stage 3, that's when we start to have like these super slow like brain waves, and that's when our body is releasing healing chemicals to recharge us for the next day. Stage 4 is the deepest stage of sleep. It's really hard to wake someone up out of this sleep, and this is where we do have dreams in this stage 2, but we don't really remember. Our most memorable dreams come from stage 5, which is Rem sleep, which I talked about in the comments. I said it stands for rapid eye movement because even though we're sleeping, we're dreaming. So like if our eyes are closed, they still might be moving and looking at places like we're inside of the dream, right? So like I said, that's every 90 minutes. It cycles throughout the course of your sleep, and which is why it's super important to get a good night's sleep. So that way you can cycle through the sleep cycle enough times to feel fully recharged for the day. We talked about how on average you spend about 6 years of your life dreaming, so about 2 hours a night. We also talked about recurring dreams and shared experiences across like humans. We tend to have those same, very similar reoccurring dreams of being chased, being chased, falling, like that stage fright anxiety, like picturing everybody in their underwear, like all of those things are common across the board. And then, sorry, I don't hear that. And then we talked a little bit about how the study was conducted in the documentary with the people that were bullied and the people that were not. The people that were bullied and stood up to bullies in their dreams were actually more likely to do so in real life when they were confronted with the situation, whereas the control group with the kids that haven't experienced bullying, didn't talk about it, didn't experience it in their dreams, and therefore in real life they didn't really do anything about it when the situation came up via the actors and stuff. We also talked about what are some ways to make sure we're getting a really good night's sleep. So whether that be no screen time before bed, try not to eat for an hour before you sleep, so that way your digestive system still isn't active while you're trying to dream. We talked about some things that relax us and calm us down, like reading a book or heating pads or diffusers or like that soothing wave music and stuff like that. And yeah, I thought it was pretty fun and interesting to talk about. So next week for Media Club, we are going to get back into our Alexa and Katie groove. I have to rewatch the third episode because that's what we'll be discussing. I actually got up to like season 2 on it. I watched a little bit ahead, so I have to make sure that I'm not doing any spoilers for next week's discussion. But in the comments, Alexa and Katie, episode 3. So, yeah, does anybody want to say anything that they might have taken away from this that they may not have known before or are surprised to know? The comments. And even if you're not, even if you're watching this while it's not live, take a second to think about, what have I learned from this? Oh, I didn't know that was a thing. I was surprised to hear that, or that's what my experience was similar to this, or my experience was very different from that when it came to dreaming and stuff like that. And if anybody who's watching decides to keep a dream journal, I'm going to do it too for the next week. So if anybody watching decides to keep a dream journal and like wants to share what they got out of having it, please, 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 like let me know. And we will have a whole dream journal discussion next week, a little bit before we get into Alexa and Katie. But yes, I hope that I had fun talking about this episode. I really like the series. They have a bunch of different little mini topics that we're going to be focusing on also. They talk a little bit about bullying. They talk about social media and stuff like that. So, yes, thanks, Lyric. This was great. So, yes, I hope you all had fun because I did. Remember to come back next Friday at 2. We're going to be talking Alexa and Katie and hopefully a little bit about this dream stuff too. But thank you all for watching.